Okay, here we go again. Play in music. You are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not, repeat, not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. Okay, this is Thursday, the 8th of April, and I'm recording this around 2:15 or so in the afternoon. This show will be broadcast on KPCA LP 103.3 FM, Petaluma, California, and on the World Wide Web at www.kpca.fm. And it's going to be broadcast this Sunday at my usual time at 9 p.m. So all of you people out there that are close by can get this on the FM dial or worldwide on the internet. Okay. Shout outs. I don't have notes for this, so I'm just going to go for it and rely on my memory, such as it is. Okay. Stan and Kathy Gustafson down in Pacific. Rich and Kathy Berger over in Sebastopol. My cousin Kathy over in Stockton. Geraldine Goldfinger out on Long Island. Herr Dr. David Rubin in the Raleigh-Durham area. Retired doctor and artist extraordinaire. Check his artworks out on David Rubin Painting, all one word, .com. And Nelson and Alice Lydell down in Sarasota, Florida. And, the Sonora Crowd, Bob and Sandy Fisher, and Brad and Martha, Darrell Larson, Judy May, Leonidas Maciel, and then Rosie Lopez Negrete. I include her with the Sonora Crowd, even though she's now living down in Mexico City. And let's see, Karina Hilliard, the Snake Lady down in Patagonia, my brother Brandon and his wife Mina, and my niece Andrea, who's a nurse. Take care of yourself, Andrea. And they're down in Santan Valley, New Mexico. I just want to riff a little bit on how it is being the Midnight Skeptic. And a lot of the shows lately have, I may have come off sounding angry. Well, there's a lot to be angry about now. Some things we can control, some things we can't. But I hate being that way. I'm not an angry person by and large. And I enjoy being happy. And even things that really make me angry or would make anybody angry, I just try to look on the bright side and this too shall pass, etc., etc. Om. One quote that I like to say now and then is, anger is the ultimate destroyer of your own peace of mind. And that was said by the Dalai Lama. I'm not a Buddhist, but he is a guy whose wisdom I respect. There are a few tiny things that I disagree with him about. But by and large, I really respect him, and every now and then he comes up with things that, you know, I just have to relay to my listeners out there. Okay. First, my notes are more organized this time. Trust me, if you dare. The Midnight Skeptic started out about 4.5 years ago, and I consider myself part of the skeptical community that's worldwide now. Our local band of skeptics is called the North Bay Skeptics, and they meet once a month up in Santa Rosa. And it's been a while since I've attended one of their meetings. They continue their meetings on Zoom now. And I don't know. There's just something missing in a Zoom conference. But one of the things that I kind of disliked about their group is that they spend awful lot of time just religion bashing, which is okay with me. I'm not a Christian. I'm not religious of any kind. And the fact that religious affiliation is on the downward slope, I applaud that. Yeah, I'm applauding. For all the YouTube people, well, for all the radio people, I am applauding on YouTube. Okay, so they can see me applauding. Okay. And I started out talking about, ghosts and psychics and extrasensory perception and UFOs and flat earth and crop circles and, oh, Jesus, everything that falls into the grand rubric of paranormal activity, one of which is alternative and complementary medicine. I've teed off on them a number of times. Back when I was doing this show in the actual KPCA studios, I had a guest. There was about 4 or 5 shows that I actually had guests on here, but one of them was a acupuncturist. This lady, she was very sincere in her beliefs about the effectiveness of acupuncture, but and I didn't put her down on air or anything. I just really wanted to find out what an acupuncturist's training was like, and I disagreed with the theory behind it. And in fact, one of the questions that I asked her was, these acupuncture points that you stick needles into, how much leeway do you have when sticking these needles in to kind of make sure that you got the right, or in some cases, the wrong point? She said that there was about a nickel-sized area. Boy, that doesn't sound very accurate to me. But anyway, be that as it may, that was my thing about acupuncture. I'm going to start off this show with a quote and just my feelings about some complementary and alternative medicine practices. And the quote that, and it's Timothy Caulfield, Caulfield. And I don't know who he is, but I ran across this quote. I don't know whether he's in medicine of any kind himself, but it's a great quote. So I'm going to relay it to you people out there. Okay. Yes, there are problems with healthcare. And by and large, he's talking with healthcare in this country. Yes, Big Pharma is too powerful and greedy and too much all-encompassing. And yes, alternative medical practitioners are most often very nice and sincere people. However, let's see, let me get my finger up in the YouTube frame here. However, none of this makes it clinically effective. None of this makes your core tenets scientifically plausible. And here he's talking to alternative medical practitioners. Okay, that's what he said. Now here's what I'm saying. And let me reiterate that the views of the Midnight Skeptic are not necessarily the views of Petaluma Community Access or KPCA LP, of which we are a part of Petaluma Community Access. Homeopathy is bullshit. Excuse me, BS. There's certain words that I can't say on air. I guess the S word is one of them, but so I'll just abbreviate it as BS. And homeopathy is a ripoff. Don't use it. The theories behind homeopathy just can't work. It just goes against everything that is known about chemistry and physics. It's just it cannot work. Okay. There is no such energy as ki or chi or meridians or acupuncture nodes or points or blockages. And I just talked a little bit ago about the acupuncturist that I had on my show. It's ki is not an energy that permeates all living things or the universe or whatever they claim it does. Okay, Chinese herbal medicines need to be put through controlled, randomized clinical tests. In other words, powdered dried weasel penises don't cure anything. Okay, Ayurvedic medical practices is 3,000-year-old BS. And it too needs to be put through evidence-based clinical tests. Yes, I'm talking Western science here, people. Okay. Sacrocranial or craniosacral therapy is BS. And here I'm treading on some toes from sincere practitioners of this medical practice, which is pseudoscientific. Okay, and the last thing I'm going to say about alternative and complementary medicines, and there might be some people out there who disagree with me about this, strongly disagree with me about this. And if you do, please email me at themidnightskeptic@gmail.com. It's all one word, very easy. If you want to send me a death threat, go ahead and do it. I'm happy to receive those things. Okay, and I say that because this last thing I'm going to say is going to put down a number of Western medical practitioners. I mean, it's not just in the U.S. or in the Western countries, but it's kind of all over the world. Osteopathic medicine is, okay, I'm going to say it, is pseudoscience and it's quackery. Okay, and guys who have a D.O. degree, Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine, I guess that's what they call it. To my way of thinking and to most skeptics' way of thinking, it is pseudoscience. And it's quackery. Okay. And I kind of hate putting the kibosh on alternative and complementary medicine that the practitioners of which are sincere people for the most part. Some of them are just out and out frauds. They know it and they charge money for it anyway. But, somebody who's been spending a better part of their lives studying something like acupuncture, for instance, or chiropractic. I hate making people feel bad. Not that the practitioners of this really care what I think, but it's just true. And I'm relaying these truths to my thousands and thousands of listeners out there. Okay, all right. I am going to tell you some things about the Republican Party as it is now. And I've said this on a show before a number of times. I am still a registered Republican, but it's literally been decades since I've ever voted for one. And especially nowadays, since the followers of the orange bloat bag sociopath have kind of taken over the Republican Party. And the most vomit-inducing senator that we have, Ted Cruz, is a Republican. And he's kind of, to my way of thinking, is the embodiment of the current Republican Party. And I'm sad to have to say that. When I first registered to vote, which at that time, I'm aging myself here, you had to be 21 in order to vote. So when I registered as a Republican, because at that time, Richard Nixon was president, and I considered myself a conservative Republican, and the embodiment of that was the National Review magazine and William F. Buckley, the guy who, William F. Buckley Jr. Anyway, I have since found out some things about him that blew my mind. I mean, I didn't find this out yesterday, but I found this out a number of years ago, that William F. Buckley was an out-and-out racist. Okay. Anyway, I'm disappointed, but, out of sheer laziness, which is a big part of it, I haven't changed my political party registration. Okay. I want to remind you all of who constitutes the modern Republican Party. By modern, I mean yesterday. The QAnoners, Marjorie Taylor Greene and all her idiot compadres, they are in the Republican Party. Republicans, by and large, not every one of them, but by and large, they are racists. And a goodly portion of them are also anti-Semites, anti-Jewish. And definitely, since they've been losing elections lately, the biggest one is the 2020 election, where the orange bloat bag was defeated, and two Democratic senators down in Georgia were elected. Republicans freaked out about that, and now there's a whole bunch of bills winding their way through the state houses of states that are, by and large, controlled by Republican governors or Republican state houses, that are designed to suppress the vote of minorities, college students, of older, more liberal people. It's just, okay, they are anti-democracy. Okay, anti-vaxxers and COVID mask wearers, they are Republicans. And the guys that go around with Confederate flags on their pickup trucks, or the ones that actually carried a Confederate flag into the January 6th invasion of our capital, that were flying Confederate flags. They are Republicans. There's a fringe movement called sovereign citizens out there that subscribe to the theory that they aren't beholden to any government, state or federal or anything. Their leaders or makers of the rules that they choose to follow are usually county sheriffs. I don't know why they think that, but they do. And the Second Amendment defenders, the gun toters, the guys that flock to open carry states and walk around with their AK-47s draped over their shoulders, the ones that invaded the State House in Michigan and terrorized, oh boy, I'm having a brain freeze on the governor of Michigan. Anyway, their plans were to kidnap her and put her on trial. I'm going to have to get used to this, the way the YouTube or the way my computer camera works. I'm usually, okay, let me try this. There we go. There's the finger one. Okay. Okay, and the worst group out of all of these are Christian evangelical fundamentalists, that they're Republicans. And they're anti-taxers, they're anti-communists, they're anti-feminists, and which includes being anti-women's choice. Okay, I'm going to have a bit to say about that. Okay, those vomit-inducing groups are the ones that constitute the modern Republican Party. Okay. About this anti-feminist and anti-women and anti-women's choice people, I'm going to say something, and I've said this on a show, I think it was about 3 shows ago. It's a quote from, what's her name? Kay Lyman, Lyman. And I got onto this discussion thread, and I use that word quite loosely. It was on a website called Science Doesn't Care What You Believe. Well, the last couple of months they've been discussing trans issues and pro-life issues and things like that. But anyway, Kay Lyman posted this. Okay. And she was, in her post, aiming it toward guys who were pro-life. There is probably some women on this thread too that are consider themselves to be pro-life, which is a misnomer. They are pro-restricting women's rights. They aren't pro-life. Don't let them get away with calling it that. Okay. She says, "Here's the thing, guys. It doesn't matter when life begins. It doesn't matter whether a fetus is a human being or not. That entire argument is a red herring." I agree. A distraction, a subjective and unwinnable argument that could not matter less. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about a fertilized egg, or a fetus, or a baby, or a 5-year-old, or a Nobel Prize-winning pediatric oncologist. Nobody and no government has the right to hijack your body against your will, even to save the life or the life of another person. No government has the right to hijack your body with its laws. Okay. That's it. That's the whole argument. That's the argument. You cannot be forced to donate blood or marrow or organs, even though thousands die every year on waiting lists. They cannot even harvest your organs after your death without your explicit written pre-mortem. God, there's a word here. I can't. Oh. Sorry. Okay, let me back up. Okay, they cannot even harvest your organs after your death without your explicit written pre-mortem permission. Denying women the right to abortion means we have less bodily autonomy than a corpse. Anti-abortion laws mean women's bodies. Oh, damn. Okay, excuse me while I try to read my notes better. Anti-abortion laws, and this is not part of her quote. It's me. This is what I say. Anti-abortion laws means women's bodily slavery to the state, meaning our government, whether local or state or federal, doesn't matter. Nobody has the right to usurp the control of women's bodies. Okay. So, but Republicans would disagree. Coffee break. Okay, it's been about a half an hour here. The last couple of shows, I've been talking about trans women and sports. Okay, Arkansas. A Republican governor, Republican state house. They can override vetoes of the governor. Not that he would, veto many Republican laws. In fact, he did veto an Arkansas law that would have criminalized medical personnel if they offered gender-affirming health care to youth. Okay, he vetoed that, but then the Republican legislature overrode his veto. As a matter of fact, you don't have to override his veto with a 2/3 vote in the houses. Just simple majority will override the governor's veto. But anyway, Arkansas, in my mind, has taken the place of Alabama and Mississippi as kind of the most regressive rights eliminating states that we have in the Union. Oh boy. Okay. Arkansas House Bill 1701, introduced by a state representative, and her name is Mary Bentley. Her bill, misnomered as Protection of Female Athletes Bill, male to female athletes, meaning trans women athletes. There was a study in 2015 by Joanna Harper. Now, she's up in Oregon. She's a sports medicine person. She actually did a study in 2015 about transgender women versus cisgender women. Okay. Let me pause just a moment. This, me being an older, non really woke person, woke is a term that's being appropriated by Republicans as a frightening concept. Anyway, cisgender versus transgender. Okay, cisgender is the vast majority of us. We're born the sex that we are. We identify with the gender that we are. Versus transgender, there's not all that many percentage-wise, but they're a significant minority. And Republicans, spurred on by their fundamentalist Christian base, is seeking to reaffirm to the trans community how much they are disliked and considered sinful by the Christian right. Myself, I am a cisgender, heterosexual male. I mean, that's the terms that I go by. But I hate using those terms. I mean, applied to myself. If somebody wants me to refer to them as transgender or cisgender, of course I'll do that. I'll accommodate whatever labels people are comfortable with, and I'll even use the pronouns that they prefer. But I want to remind my listeners out there that the pronoun you is both singular and plural. Second person plural is you. So if you're talking to someone who is, gender fluid or bigender or in between gender, whatever they want to call themselves, and they prefer you to use the pronoun they or them, of course I will do that for them, but really it doesn't make a lot of sense. If I say the word you, as in what do you want, okay, it can be a plural pronoun as well. I don't have to say, hey, what would they like to drink when I'm addressing one person here. If that one person considers themselves of two genders or bigender or whatever, I can use you. Just consider it to be the plural, second person plural. Okay, enough of that. Okay. Anyway, let me dredge this up. This thing about, Mary Bentley, sorry. Yeah. Okay, Arkansas's House Bill 1701, submitted on April 6th of this year, that's a couple of weeks ago, would allow wrong. Okay. It's not a bill about transgender, although I do have notes that I'm going to be talking about that. And this is Arkansas anyway. Mary Bentley, Republican from District 73 in Arkansas, she submitted House Bill 1701, April 6, 2021. It would allow the teaching of creationism as a theory of how the earth came to exist. She had previously introduced House Bill in Arkansas, 2050, that would have allowed public schools to teach creationism and intelligent design alongside the theory of evolution. She cited scientists, she claims, who claim to believe in biblical creation. uh, you really have to search through the dustbin of debunked science researchers to come up with these scientists who believe that. She herself went to a Christian college there in Arkansas, and however, the federal court, talking about this House Bill 2050 that she introduced and passed, the federal courts in McLean versus Arkansas Board of Education overturned that. So she introduced this new bill. And of course, Mary Bentley is a Southern Baptist. Oh, gosh. That's one of the religions that I would like to see just confined to their own little reservation somewhere in the woods of Alabama or Mississippi, or preferably they would just disappear somehow. Okay, enough of that. I apologize to, I'm off topic. I was going to be talking about transgender athletes and the anti-trans bills in general. But that this kind of crept into my notes. Okay. This is a little newspaper blurb about the NCAA and trans athletes. The NCAA responded to the mounting number of bills in state legislatures aimed at barring transgender athletes from competing in sports divisions that match their gender identity, saying that it was, quote, committed to ensuring that NCAA championships are open for all who earn the right to compete in them. But the organization, which has been under pressure from LGBTQ rights advocates, major league leaders, and its own athletes, stopped short of saying that it would pull championships from states considering such legislation, as it did in 2016 after North Carolina passed a law that restricted restroom access for transgender individuals. Okay, that's a whole nother issue. The stupid-ass bathroom bills that some of these regressive Republican-controlled states have been passing lately. There is an argument that anti-LGBTQ people, politicians and religious conservatives, tout as a concern of theirs. They all want to protect women and girls from sexual predators that suddenly identify as a woman just to go into a woman's bathroom. That's a bogus argument because sexual predators will just walk into a girl's bathroom anyway. Those people can be dealt with just like any other sexual predator. These bathroom bills will do nothing to add a layer of protection to women and girls. Girls' bathrooms generally, well, in fact, all of them that I know of, have stalls rather than urinals in them. So if a trans woman wants to go in and use a women's bathroom, that means she is still has the genitalia of a male, unless she's medically transitioned, surgically transitioned, has bottom surgery, as they sometimes say. They just go in and use the stall. It's no big deal. And nothing concerning this topic is as big a deal as the Christian fundamentalist rights people want to have you believe that it's a big danger. I was listening to an interview, now this was a couple of years ago, with that fount of knowledge, Mike Huckabee, and his I think it was more than 4 years ago, because I think it was before the orange bloat bag got elected to be our president. But anyway, he was interviewed, and the topic of transgender people came up. And in his smirky smile that he usually has on his face, said that, what's to stop me from suddenly feeling one day like I'm identifying with a woman and walking into the bathroom if I want to see women going to the bathroom? Is that really the level of depravity of Christian fundamentalists? Well, the answer is probably yes. That is the level of depravity that they exhibit. Okay. Anyway, speaking of Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee, his daughter, who was the lying mouthpiece for the orange bloat bag for a long time, is thinking about running for governor of Arkansas. The state of Arkansas and Sarah Huckabee deserve each other. Again, my opinions are not necessarily the opinions of Petaluma Community Access or the radio station that I'm recording on right now. Okay. Information on estrogen hormone therapy. When a girl is suffering from gender dysphoria and she would want to transition to a boy, excuse me, oh boy, I blew that one. When a boy, a male, a Homo sapiens, human male, is born and comes down with gender dysphoria, and he would prefer to become a girl as much as possible. Well, first of all, the state of Arkansas in this last bill will criminalize medical personnel who will not just do the surgery necessary, but also give you testosterone blockers and estrogen treatments. Okay, that's what this article is about. I'm going to say this again, and I've said it on previous shows. If a boy has gender dysphoria and he convinces his parents and his medical providers that he needs hormone therapy, he should be able to, when he becomes a trans female, compete on girls' teams. Now, there's controversy over how long a waiting period should be before he should be allowed to compete on girls' teams as a trans female. The consensus now and the studies that have been done on this topic generally say 2 years. Now, if he decides to transition before puberty has set in for him, then usually 1 year is enough, because once puberty sets in for a male and his gonads start kicking out a lot of testosterone, which gives males an athletic advantage, then it's pretty much okay. If puberty has already set in and at the age of, 16, 17, 18, the male decides to transition to a female at that time, and then he starts taking testosterone blockers at first, and then shortly after that, then he starts taking estrogen hormone therapy, which is the female hormones. That's what this study is about. This is an overview of feminizing hormone therapy, and it's been put out by the UCSF Medical Center Department of Transgender Care. Okay. As you prepare to begin treatment, now is a great time to think through what your goals are. Do you want to get started right away on a path to the maximum degree of medically appropriate feminizing effects? Or do you want to begin at a lower dose and allow things to progress more slowly, which I would recommend? Perhaps you are seeking less than maximal effects and would like to remain on a low dose for the long term. Thinking about your goals will help you communicate more effectively with your medical provider, if you're not in Arkansas, as you work together to map out your care plan. Many people are eager for hormonal changes to take place rapidly, which is totally understandable. It's important to remember that the extent of and rate at which your changes take place depend on many factors. These factors primarily include your genetics and the age at which you start taking hormone. Consider the effects of hormone therapy as a second puberty. And puberty normally takes years for the full effects to be seen. Taking higher doses of hormones will not necessarily bring about faster changes, but it could endanger your health. You have really got to talk to your health provider about this hormone plan that you want for yourself. And let me stop here for a second. In the whole universe of youth that suffers from gender dysphoria, okay, let's cut that in half roughly. Half of them are male to female, and the other half female to male. Okay. And then of that half of the universe of gender dysphoric youth, how many of them want these hormone treatments just to compete on girls' track teams, for instance? We're getting down to a very tiny percentage of them. I doubt, really, if there are any trans females that became trans females just so they could win a 200-yard dash trophy so that they can put it on their bookshelf. Really. But these stupid-ass right-wing Christian fundamentalists would have you believe that there's a flood of these instances that we have to be concerned about it. They're jerks, all of them. Okay, enough of that rant. Okay, the first changes you will probably notice are that your skin will become a bit drier and thinner. Now, she's talking about testosterone blockers and estrogen treatments to feminize the male who's suffering from gender dysphoria. Probably within a few weeks, you'll begin to develop small buds beneath your nipples. Now, she's talking about females who pre-puberty for them. Girls begin to go through puberty at roughly, on average, about 2 years before boys do. Okay. So boys that are getting feminization estrogen treatments are going to experience some small breast growth. It's important to note that breast development varies from person to person. Not everyone develops at the same rate, and most transgender women who begin hormone therapy after puberty, even after many years of treatment, can only expect to develop an A cup, okay, or perhaps a small B cup. As with all other women, the breasts of transgender women vary in size and shape and will sometimes be uneven with each other. It is usually a good idea to wait until you have been on hormones for at least a year before pursuing breast augmentation therapy. Okay, your eyes and face will begin to develop a more feminine appearance as the fat under the skin increases and shifts because women in general have more of a subcutaneous fat percentage than do males, regardless of whether the male is an athlete or not. Because it can take 2 or more years for these changes to fully develop, it is a good idea to delay a decision on seeking facial feminization surgery until you have been on hormone therapy for at least 2 years. Okay. Reproductive system changes. No, we don't need to go into that. Estrogen is the primary female hormone. It is involved in many of the physical and emotional changes seen in transition. Estrogen may be given as a pill, by injection, or by a number of skin preparations, such as a gel, spray, or patch. Okay, this is not getting really into the athletic part of this. Okay, feminizing hormone therapy. Feminizing hormone therapy includes medications that will reduce the level of testosterone while providing enough estrogen, and it's known as estradiol. To allow feminizing changes to occur, it is important to let your provider, meaning healthcare provider, know if you take any other prescribed medications or over-the-counter supplements, as these may interfere with feminizing medications. Estradiol serves 2 roles in a feminizing treatment. Estradiol is powerful at reducing your testosterone levels. Estradiol is a hormone that promotes feminine physical changes. Okay, now by feminine physical changes, after male puberty, does that necessarily involve reducing muscle, what's the word? Muscle size? Okay. There have been studies done, and I'm referring back to this 2015 study. This lady up in Oregon did this study comparing cis women and trans women after 2 years, and she measured their times on various short sprints and long races, and right after, okay, now she did this to 18 and 19-year-old volunteers for this, and it's hard to get volunteers for studies like this. So doing really well-regulated studies about this, they're rather difficult and take a long time, and it's very hard to get volunteers to do this. At the first measurements, the trans women who had just transitioned were able, for the most part, to outrun cis women, meaning they were born women and identified as women. However, 2 years, give or take a few months, seems to be the cutoff point at which cis women catch up with trans women in their abilities. And in many cases, according to her study, women, track and field people, outperformed the trans women. Okay, so that's, I would say, after all the reading that I've done on this topic, that, well, first of all, forget politicians and forget Christian fundamentalists. In order to have a more or less level playing field, the few trans women athletes that really want to compete against other women athletes, there should be, excuse me, there should be a waiting period of roughly about 2 years. And the IOC, International Olympic Committee, they say, well, it used to be that 10 nanomoles per liter of blood of testosterone was allowable for trans women to compete in women's events. Well, they've since reduced that. Now it's 5 nanomoles per liter. And the elite female athletes quite often have naturally occurring high levels of internally generated testosterone, and in some cases exceeding that 10 nanomoles per liter level. There's a condition, and I'm having a brain freeze. It's not in my notes. But Caster Semenya, the track and field star from South Africa, was tested for her own endogenous testosterone levels, and she measured at various times 8 nanomoles per liter of blood, and I think she topped out once at 11 nanomoles per liter. And there's a lot of gripes about her because honestly, she does look a bit masculine, but she is a female, and she's been checked out for her lady parts and so on. So I'm nearing the end of this show. Thank you for listening to this, and really stop being right-wing Christians, for those of you who are out there. It's just a hateful way to spend your faith-based beliefs and time. Okay, bye-bye. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. Okay, you YouTubers out there that happen to be watching this, that's it for another Midnight Skeptic show, and I'm going to go pet my cat now, and maybe even drink a glass of wine. How about that?